Hey, you guys, and welcome to American Culture. So, I was going over the Gospels today, and like I said, when I got there, it became a cerebral masterpiece. And I started to recognize that these things not only cross reference each other, these numbers really matter. For example, the number 1, 2, 3. What do you think about when you hear that? Well, you think of alignment in the right place. And believe it or not, so does the Bible. You see, the thing is, the number 12, and there are all these meanings that are associated with numbers in the Bible. Get into it, you guys. The number 12 represents God's authority, and number 7 usually equals the finished and completeness of some type of series. And so when you get to the verses in a lot of chapter 12, verse 34, you see that God is exercising his authority that leads to some type of completedness. And so, for example, when we go through Matthew chapter 12, verse 34, it speaks about how, you're a brood of vipers out there. Don't you understand that good things come from good things and bad things come from bad things? And so that's Jesus going out there basically telling everybody, hey, you got to get it together. When you go through Mark, it says if you're wise to this, that good things come from good things and bad things come from bad things, then you will be close to heaven. You're close to the kingdom. Now you have to read Mark and realize that at this point, a lot of people were questioning Jesus, and we'll get to that in a second. And somebody finally answered wisely as to the character of God. The first one in Matthew, you're being questioned to understand the character of God, that good comes from good. So you got to stop looking at those godly things and thinking that bad is there. It's not happening. And if you get wise to that after all these questions, then you'll be close to the kingdom. And so in Luke chapter 12, verse 34, it is where your treasure is, so is your heart. Now, a lot of us, we understand that voice, but that verse. But again, it goes back to you knowing God is good. Getting that and being wise to that in your heart, and that being revealed through you. Now in John chapter 12, verse 34, it's I'm not going to be here. Okay, you guys, I can't be the light and keep on lighting all this stuff up for you. You're going to have to figure it out. So you see how this story of authority and alignment, it basically runs through these 12 verses. But then you have to think about what chapter 12 is to each one of them, how it begins, how the authority begins. In Matthew, chapter 12 begins with Jesus declaring that I can do these things. I'm Jesus. So he comes in and does work on the Sabbath, and they're like, no, you can't do that. He's putting a question to the status quo. In Mark, again, you see the same thing. It starts out with the parable of the talents. And that's where he basically goes to the Pharisees and the Sadducees and says, hey, look at what they did to the guy who owned the vineyard. They thought killing him was going to get everything, and it didn't work out. This is actually what's set in motion to get Jesus to the cross, the crucifixion. Again, God's authority. The second thing, when you go to Luke, what happens there? He starts giving all these warnings. And don't you see that in Jesus' life? I declare who I am. I have to go through all this stuff, but I'm going to give you warnings to what happens if you don't honor this, if you don't accept who I am, who God is, who Jesus is. It then ends at Bethany, where Jesus is anointed by the woman with the fragrant oil, i.e. the faith and so forth. And so you see that God's authority in these chapters through the gospel, because some of these books are linked, it's kind of like Exodus, Numbers, and Leviticus, all of them go together. You see God's authority telling you the story of Jesus through these different chapters. He's going to announce himself. He's going to go out there and people are going to try to bring harm to him. He's going to give all these warnings, but hey, he's still going to get anointed into the position that he's supposed to be in. So yeah, you guys, I thought it was very interesting. I've gotten to a point now to where I can really see how all of this stuff is linked beyond the characters of, oh, okay, that was John living that. I do recognize that God is giving us a unique glimpse into how we run our own lives. And yeah, you guys, those numbers really matter. Have a blessed day, you guys.